I don't know. I just want to get on here and say, like, those who have had a positive impact on my life, like, I'll say, like, I didn't forget those things. And I don't know if everyone ever knows how much of a positive impact they've had on my life. Like, I don't think, like, people realize, like, how much a simple act of kindness, a simple friendship, or a simple, and bad people are like that. Oh, right now I just want to say to, like, all the good people who have been in my life who positively affected me, thank you. And you should know who you are. If you don't, maybe I'll make an appreciation post, because I realized that I don't really thank those who have been positive in my life and who have been an influence in my life often. And there's maybe like on Facebook or Instagram or both or something like that, a lot of people like that come to mind. And I realized that maybe one of those next girl power posts or one of those next, you know, I appreciate y'all, love y'all post, I'm gonna tag everyone who has had a positive impact in my life. And like, the thing is, it's like with those type of people who, you know, sometimes they don't even realize that they make like such a positive impact in someone's life, because they're just who they are, and it just rubs off and affects people positively. And sometimes it's just good just to appreciate people. Like, I can call out so many people that like have, you know, had a positive impact in my life, from, I would say, maybe 18 till now, because, you know, I was kicked out at 18, so my life has been kind of hard, emotionally and mentally, with that fact. And so it's like realizing that, like, there is a lot of people who in my life that just had a very, really good impact in my life, positive impact in my life. Realize it whether they realize it or not. So I'm gonna make one, you know, maybe even before 18, from life experiences and things that I've experienced, that, you know, certain people just are kind of like, you know, I was watching these YouTubers, and they were reacting to this thing called like My 600-Pound Life or whatever. And one of the things that the person who was 600 pounds or whatever weight they were, but they had to get really low to a really great weight. I think they like end up smaller than me or whatever. But one of the things she said was that she had to cut out all the enablers, all the people who made her, you know, who she was, type of thing. Like, other people who basically encourage her to stay fat, or encourage her to continue a lifestyle that obviously will end in death. So I would say all of us are gonna die, but you know, that's an inevitable fact. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that premature death, that, you know, they were enabling her towards a premature death. Like, what, she was like in her 30s, like she could have died, like, what most of the diagnosis for people who's that overweight is like 7 years. You get heart attacks, clots. One of the patients actually died in one of the shows, because like, when you're that much weight, you're just kind of like gonna die because of health issues, like, soon or than normal. So you know, but the lady, in order to get to where she wanted to be, she had to get rid of the enablers in her life. And, you know, I look at my life and I think about, who are the people, like, and another thing Steve Harvey was saying, who are the people who are positively impacting you? So when they call, you're excited, you're happy, whatever, it's positive. And then who are the people who, you know, when, you know, they call, you're like, oh my God, here we go again, you know? And he's like, delete all those type of people from your contacts. And the same thing was like with her. She had to delete those people in her life that was enabling her to be something that she was not wanting to be, that was not good for her. And that can apply to not just weight, that can apply to mental health, that can apply to emotional health, that can apply to any form of health in your body, in your mind, in your soul, in your spirit. So me saying this is not because like I might be that person to people, you know. I can be very naive, so I can think that everybody in this world loves me. And I can think everyone in this world loves me and wants the best for me. And I gotta realize, since I started even to struggle with like jealousy and hate sometimes, that there is gonna be people who don't like me, maybe because they're jealous or they just consider me their enemy. And the thing is that I'm not typically that type of person, but the thing is that I have to be aware of that you know, not everyone's gonna like me, and that's okay. But the other thing is that in regards to the enablers and keeping on a good path, that like you have to delete like sometimes you don't have to delete people, but sometimes you do. And the other thing is that like if somebody was good for you in one season, doesn't mean they'll be good for you in the next season. So it sounds crazy because I'm very optimistic when I enter into relationships. I'm very, very optimistic. So most of the people I become friends with, I typically believe these will be my friends forever. And I realized that I have to let go of them. I have to let go of that thought that everyone who enters in my life is going to last. Because why might they not last? Because I might outgrow them, or they might outgrow me. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone is for every single season. And that's why like marriage is so crazy, because you end up marrying someone that you would trust to be able to be with you through every season. Now, because of my optimism, that's why I don't trust my own judgment. Because of my optimism, I pick friends, because you can pick friends. You don't have to be friends with everybody, but you know, you can pick who you want to be friends with. You can have control over that, and that can in turn affect your life. But the thing is that in regards to like me picking my friends, I don't have such a good track record of that, and I don't have such a good track record of picking people that, you know, relationship wise. So you know, it is crazy to me to know that people can pick someone, I don't know how they do it, that they choose to be with for the rest of their life. And through all the changes of being a human, through all the changes of being a woman, being all the changes of being whatever, there will be somebody who could actually like sit with you through life and be with you through life, and not like get tired of you or betray you, you know. And the thing is that like or not outgrow you, or you won't outgrow each other. That's really crazy to imagine, but that's what marriage is, and that's why I think God created marriage. Now, in my optimism when it comes to friendships, because I think marriage could reflect God's design for even friendships, because I'm very close to my friends, you know what I'm saying? But not in that way, of course, like, but like close in a way, like inseparable. Like I can be very inseparable when it comes to like my friends and stuff. So, but I realized that why friendship creates that optimism in me, because commitment. I think that's what it comes down to, because when it comes to marriage, of course, no matter what, if you think you outgrown each other, if you think you've fallen out of love, if you think, you know, there's still this binding commitment to that person. And that's why I think that's how I view my friendships. I think that's even how Jesus might view friendships. That, like, disciples were Jesus' friends forever. And that's how I view friendship. I view it as, if we're friends, we're friends. I don't see why we can't be forever. But I understand the realities of life, and sometimes, let's be honest, we hurt each other. Friends betray each other. They are become ashamed of you. Um, treat you bad, think they're better than you, jealous, envious, blah blah blah. So a lot of the times, because of human issues, even my own, like, I can be very easily offended, but sometimes I do think I have reason to be, and that's everyone, right? But sometimes I do think that it's necessary to sometimes separate, but the gospel seems to say something else. But if you're friends and you separate for a purpose, and I think that if it's a purpose in it, okay, maybe I have to go to another state, okay, whatever, or maybe God sending me somewhere else. But I think in America we don't value each other, and it shows how much we value each other as human beings, as people. Take that hurt, and instead of applying it to all my new friendships, I can easily make new friends. I can't. It's not easy, but you can, though. You can easily as friends. I'm not gonna use that term lightly anymore. Friendship. I do disown friends. So one day I'm your friend, next day I won't be. But I've learned to actually easily make new friends. You know how many people my age is like in Baltimore? Like, you know how many 26-year-olds are in Baltimore, 27-year-olds, 30-year-old to from 23 to 30-year-olds there are in Baltimore. If you choose not to be my friend anymore, you don't value me as a friend, or the other way around. If I choose not to be your friend anymore because maybe there's like a purpose, like, I'm not going to just not be friends with someone for a reason. The reason might be I outgrew you. The reason might be I'm on a different path. The reason might be because there's a lot of situational. I realize I have a lot of situational friendships. I personally need friendships where I can be vulnerable with you. I can be myself. I can be cursed. I can be whoever I am with that person, and they still be like, that's my friend. Yeah. And I need friends that call me friend, because I realize a lot of times I call people friend and they flag. Like, that's a huge red flag. If you call someone your friend and they don't consider you a friend, or they don't ever say, oh, that's my friend, you realize, wait, what the? So you're like supposed to be my friend, but I'm not a friend to you? That's very hurtful. You know what I'm saying? Those type of people, you gotta realize, okay, even though I love them, I appreciate them, I value them, and I consider them a friend, I might have to, for my own health, mental health, emotional health, because it's not healthy to have to be any friendship to be one-sided. And some people might think of you as like a mentee. So then, okay, I'm your mentee, then you're my mentor. Then I start to think. So if they consider themselves my mentor, but I consider them a friend, then this relationship is skewed. It's skewed because I'm not looking for this person to be my mentor, but they consider themselves my mentor, but then I consider them a friend. It's something off. Like, relationships like that, there's something off. And if there's something off, then it's most likely not a friendship. So, like, someone you could just sit and talk with. Like, don't you ever just want, like, I realize I don't have a lot of like friends with the girls. Girls are very catty, but I do have, most of my friends are girls. I really don't have a lot of guy friends either, though. But altogether, I don't have a lot of friends. But like, like I don't have a lot of friends, so I ain't make new friends. That's my thing. And like I think for me it's like I can't sit around and wait for those who I have considered a friend to be my friend. I can't sit around and wait for it because it may never happen. What I need to do is go ahead and just make new friends. Like every season of your life, you're not going to have like friends by your side every single season. Some people do because they have like those lifelong friends, but I don't know. I have maybe one friend that's like a lifelong friend, but that's just one. But you know, that friend is like further away, you know, they're not like up the street. But when it comes to like, you know, but here's my thing to the church. I know y'all don't want criticism, but how can you call yourself the church if you act like the world? Sometimes I wonder what your motives are. Some of church people and church leaders. I do. I know God says that we should not worry about like preachers' motives or whatever, because at the end of the day, if they're preaching about Jesus, that's all that matters. At the same time though, I worry about the motives because in the end, are you a hired hand? You're gonna jump ship when it gets hard? Are you manipulative? Are you, you know, if you don't like someone, are you gonna be like the type of person to try to outcast people? I'm thinking leadership, and that's what you have to pay attention to when you find a church. And like people like me, come to church with expectations, but honestly, my only expectation is love. And if things are done, going on, continuing, and there's no love in it, and that's why I question motivations. I know I shouldn't have to worry about that, but I do. And I don't think it's right that I don't, you know, get a say in certain matters. Like the church is a church, a body. It's not just the pastor. But at the same time though, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, you know, navigate that? Because let's be honest, preachers and like pastors, they have a lot of position of power. You know, you might not think so because it's like, you know, they're not, you know, they're from God, they're ordained, but they are in positions of power because there's a lot of people who automatically respect them just because they come preaching the news of God, just because they come and, you know, they're preaching about Jesus, which is awesome. And that's why honestly I respect, you know, because I want to hear about Jesus. You know, don't we all? Like if you are really like a Christian and you really want to go to church and you really want to hear, you just want to hear about God and you want God to lead you and guide you in life, and church can be an encouragement. You come together as a body of believers. But if you think about it, if you come to church and no one checks on you, no one asks you how you're doing, and you might be the least of those, you might not have what everybody else has. You might not be in positions that everyone else is, but there's not one person who checks on you, and the church is supposed to be a body and a family, then that's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to be in that type of position. Like, it's dangerous to be in a church like that. I don't think it's wrong to have that expectation that you care for my soul. And I think God, allowed me, because the first church I went to, it was awesome. The first church I went to, it was awesome. And so I thank God, and also I think because God was working in me, he allowed me to give a lot of grace. I don't have much of it now, even though I should. But he allowed me to have a lot of grace for maybe things that weren't right, that I ignored or didn't see. but God used the church. He really did. He used the church to help me in my walk with him. He really did. So even if back then there were things that weren't right, I might have been ignorant to it, but God, there was love there, so that's a big plus. So that's number one. And God used it, and he allowed me to be in a humble position so that the church was able to help build me up to be, and Jesus at the same time, because I read my word every day, would build me up to be, who he wants me to be. I went to it, then I started to go to a church there was no love. And I was not cared for. I was not checked on. I was ignored and basically like outcasted. And it was very hard, especially because I was also going through loss, a lot of loss, friendship, betrayal, my niece passing away. Honestly, even people in the church passing away. And it was just like, I was not getting any comfort. Almost every time I went there, I was not checked on. It felt like I had to be the strong one. And it didn't make sense to me. And to me, I'm like, well, this church should be different. But I finally had to make the decision to leave. And I finally had to make the decision to cut off people who were not loving towards me. And I think Jesus kind of measures that, right? Jesus measures how you treat the least in the congregation. I didn't have much. I was in college, I didn't have everything everyone else had. I don't have my parents in my life, mom or dad. My mom is in my life, but she's incapable. And honestly, her being in my life is more recent, and that's because I choose to reach out. But I don't have my parents. My adopted mom, when I was 18, kicked me out. So I didn't have much. All I had was me, and maybe the things I accumulated throughout the years of being on my own. And I was in college, you know what I'm saying? But all I had was me, and I was not acknowledged. I was outcasted. I was looked down upon, probably talked about, because when people talk about you. There was a few people who were nice to me, but not many people checked on my spiritual well-being, which the church should do. It's the only place where you can get spiritual healing, the only place where you can get checked on spiritually. I would go every week and not get checked on for maybe years, and that wasn't healthy for me. So I had to realize that that was a thing, and that wasn't healthy for me. So I wasn't really growing in my walk there at all. So I think when it comes to relationships, they're very important. Why? Because relationships can help you walk a straight path and go on that narrow path and go where you need to go in life, where God is leading you in life, or whatever's going on, or it can lead you down a path of destruction. So relationships are very important, and it's hard. Relationships are hard because the fact that you would have to let go of people that you may love or you may thought was going to be in your life forever, that you appreciate them and whatever. But the point is, and I think that's the point. The point is that sometimes we have to go through stuff, some more than others. I could say that people think there's two types of people, three maybe, and how they view me. That I've actually heard them communicate with me. One is that you don't go through nothing. Look at you. You're pretty. You're blah, blah, blah. You're all this. So you don't go through nothing. But little did they know, I have PTSD. Why? Because I went through childhood trauma. I went through a traumatic experience that most people will not have to experience for years in my childhood. Yeah. I'm probably not the only one who's been through trauma, but little do they know. So you know, I may never recover from it. And that's the reality. I have to deal with a mental health crisis that I may never recover from based off of something that's not my fault. For the rest of my life. But they don't see that. They see how happy I am. They see how kind I am to them. They see what God was doing in my life, and they just think that I'm like super privileged or something. But it's like, everyone has their own issues. Stop judging people by a book on the cover. Another thing people, I think, judge me as is, or another thing that people can judge me as is so that's one big thing. I think a lot of people think that, and like they see where I'm at. They see that I have things that a lot of people my age don't have, but they don't understand that me getting this was actually like a survival mechanism, and like me getting these things maybe halfway, you know, maybe half of it is maybe because I'm pretty, maybe, but maybe God's giving me favor because he's my father. He's yours too, right? So I mean, like, some people, you know, you might not believe. So people just be thinking that, like, I think it's ridiculous to know my situation and not care for it, to know my mental state and not care for it. That's why I think, like, I'm so sensitive when it comes to stuff like that, betrayal, because it's like my friends become my support system. Right now, I don't have much friends, so my support system is what I have to make it to be in order to keep afloat, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever. It's literally what I make it. And but through all my experiences, the one thing I do want to say is that I know God has been there, you know, and even when I was homeless, I can never say God didn't provide for me. You wanna know why? Because he provided a roof over my head. He provided food. I ate every day. I didn't have a job. I was searching for a job, but it was hard. I was even suicidal. But one thing I look back on is that even though I was homeless, which is not like the best thing to be, right? It's embarrassing. No one wants to be homeless. I didn't have any mental disabilities. I didn't have any disability to be homeless. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have demonic influences. It wasn't something wrong with me. I wasn't a criminal. But I was homeless because of circumstances that I had no control over. Yet God still provided for me. I will never forget. So that's like my encouragement to myself now when I struggle with maybe that fear. Encouragement to anyone else. Like, no matter what situation you find yourself in, if God gave you food, if God gives you clothes, if God gave you, you know, those two things, God is with you. You realize that, like, I could be anywhere. I could have been anywhere. I could have ended up anywhere. But God miraculously showed up in my life because he took care of me. Even when I would even dare to say since I was in my mom's womb. Because that's what the Bible says. I would dare to say God took care of me. Even through the abuse that I went through growing up. I would dare to say that God was with me then. You want to know how I know? Every time I prayed to him, he would always answer me. He would always answer me. Every single time I would pray I would pray to God and I'll ask him. And this was when I was a kid. I would pray to God and I'd ask him, God, I wanted something so bad that maybe I knew like my great aunt was very temperamental, her temperament angry. So I knew I couldn't approach her and I couldn't ask her most of the time. She'd say no. So I was praying. It's like, God, for things I really wanted. And God would actually give it to me. With my abusive, angry mom, God would use her to answer my prayer. Like, God was with me. Like, God is with anyone who calls on his name. And that's what he says. He was with me back then. So I dare to say, even though I was going through things that in my childhood that ended up causing me to have PTSD, gave me trauma, that God was still with me even then. So that's the encouragement. To look back. Because the thing is that a lot of times we look at now and we see right now we don't feel God. And a lot of times we think about the future and we're like, I know God's with me. But even less times do we look at the past and remember what God has already done. And remembered how he's come through every single time. Every time. The impossible. Maybe that's why people look at me and they call me crazy when I be like, so adamant about what God can do. You know why? Because they didn't have to go through the things I had to go through and had to be delivered from the things I had to be delivered from. Didn't have to experience miracles that I had to experience. He did miracles. Like, I can go up to my adopted mom and I'll be afraid because she was so temperamental. But the thing is that when I prayed to God, he gave me favor with my great aunt who abused me and hated me. He gave me favor with someone who hated me. That's a miracle. Someone who doesn't want good for you, and then God gives you favor in the sight of that person because you ask him to and you pray to him for it. That's only God. I was a child back then, and God would do those things. So no, it wasn't just when I was kicked out, God was with me. It wasn't just when I got saved at 19, God was with me. It was back when I was a kid, and I would pray to God because I had a little book called my Book of Bible Stories. I would pray. When I was in a situation, I was fearful for my life, I would pray, and God would always bring me to safety. When I was scared, he would bring me to safety. When I needed things, he always provided for me, even as a child. Didn't have this huge understanding of Jesus or of God. He still was with me though. And now it's like a lot of people might not like me. Like a lot of people might not. Like I realize that a lot of people are unfollowing me. I might have some character flaws. But I really might. I might have some issues. But God knows me. That's number one. And he's going to be with me. He's going to continue to be with me. He's going to continue to provide for me. He's going to continue to take care of me. He's going to continue to. No matter what. That's what radical faith is. Jesus literally had no home. And God was with him. Jesus was in his 30s and he had no home. And even before his whole life, God was with him, right? But his ministry didn't start till he was like in his 30s, right? So why are we thinking that like we're, behind? Why do we think that all of us had to be saved as children? Jesus didn't get baptized till he started his ministry or whatever. We all don't have the same, timeline. We all don't have the same timeline, but you gotta trust God's timeline. That's it.